Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Hello and welcome to USA Global TV and Radio. I'm Tracy Cram Perkins, and our show today is Dementia Home Care. I invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, USA Global TV and Radio. I am a 4-time dementia caregiving survivor and the author of Dementia Home Care, How to Prepare Before, During, and After. And joining me today is Deanna Vigliotta, National Sales Manager for Seni USA. She is also the co-host of Continence Chats podcast. Welcome, Deanna.
Well, thank you, Tracy. Thanks so much for the opportunity to spend some time with you today. I certainly appreciate it very much.
Oh, I am so excited to have you on the show. I know we've been talking about this for quite some time. And I don't think at least on my show, we have not talked about continence whatsoever. And for those people in the audience who don't know, can you please explain who Seni is and what you do?
Absolutely. Happy to. So, I am the national sales manager for a company named TZMO USA. Seni is actually a brand of high performing adult incontinence products. So, some people aren't even familiar with that term, incontinence products, but what we're talking about is disposable briefs and pull ups and maybe underpads. And for people that have bladder leaks and bladder challenges, our products really help people in that area, whether they're caregivers or individuals for all different types of reasons. So, TZMO is a Poland based large global manufacturer of multiple product lines and hygiene products. So, here in the USA, we have Seni, the brand, with our corporate headquarters out of Atlanta. And I work with great teammates who are on a quest in this country to change how incontinence products are viewed really from a disposable commodity to, hey, America, this is important stuff that we really need to take a deeper dive and look at so we can have better outcomes, both clinically and socially, for people that are challenged with incontinence.
I love the way you just described that because one of the things that I know going through caring for family members was the breaking point for one of my family members happened to be when my mom was incontinent, and it took out my dad basically, and at that time, the only products we had only took so many ounces, which, they only hold so many ounces. So when you and I first started talking, it was like hearing, eh, a song, a heavenly chorus song, because I just didn't know that this even existed. I just thought we were stuck with the off the shelf stuff, and that's all you could get. Um, the fact that you guys have a breathable product. So, first of all, can you explain to the audience what continence is? And then we'll dive deeper here.
Yeah. So, folks that are continent are able to control their bladders. Their mind works well to say, we all feel it, gee, I've got to go and use a restroom. People that are incontinent, there are all types of reasons why someone who has dementia or Alzheimer's, their brain may not be telling them, I've got to go. Or you could have functional incontinence, someone who maybe their brain says, okay, it's time to go. but their legs just don't work as well as they used to, so they can't get there in time. So there are all types of incontinence, 4 or 5 different types. And what we try to do is educate, because to your point, Tracy, and when we first started talking, people, I call it deep in the weeds. If you are a caregiver for someone,
Mhm.
you are probably deep in the weeds with incontinence. It could be someone who has dementia, and physically they look just fine, but unfortunately they're voiding on a sofa, right, or a chair, and you may think, gee, what's going on? They look fine, but you have to remember, unfortunately, that brain is not intact enough to say I've got to go. So our quest is to put good products in place that not only help the person, which is primary, right, whoever is incontinent, but also help the caregiver. So incontinence, to answer your question, is really for a host of reasons where your body or your mind is no longer capable of understanding that I have to use a restroom.
That leads me to my next thing. Okay, and you and I have also talked about this behind the scenes. We thought that if we sized up to the next size larger product, that it would cover more time overnight, and instead it led to a fall. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So that kind of leads me down a path of two paths. When you think of products, it's really important for people to think about two things: features and benefits of a product. So, just to touch on those, a product that is fully breathable, meaning skin vapors can go in and out of a product, means that you really shouldn't have skin breakdowns if a product can breathe. So, anybody that's looking for a product for themselves or a loved one really should be looking at, number one, is it fully breathable? And the key is fully, or 100%, because there are some products out there that might say breathable, but you read the fine print and it's on the wings of the product, or not completely 100% breathability. That's critical from a clinical perspective to reduce the risk of skin breakdowns. And then you want to look for a product that has a feature of what they call an inner leak guard. When you have an inner leak guard, when someone voids, that urine is being wicked away from the skin. Those leak guards help to prevent wet sheets, soiled garments. Those things can lead to, unfortunately, a fall. And you say, well, how can that lead to a fall? Well, if I don't have leak guards and I now have soiled sheets or garments, I feel uncomfortable, and now I may get up. And if it's in the nighttime, I may be groggy, and now I have my fall. So you want to look for full breathability, inner leak guards. And then a key part too is products are made with what they call an acquisition distribution layer. It's kind of in the middle of the product, in the core. Now, most people don't go around pulling up the core of a product unless you're on the Seni team, because we're educating and we're saying pull that acquisition distribution layer up. The good products out there, the high performing products, will not have a plastic acquisition distribution layer. If you have a plastic acquisition distribution layer construction feature, unfortunately, that can lead to not only skin breakdown, because you have in the private areas heat, moisture, not a good combination to protect skin, but you can also have UTIs, because if you think microscopic pooling of urine on a plastic backing can become an issue. Women have shorter urethras. Bacteria can go up into the urethra, into the bladder. We go round robin trying to fix UTIs. If a doctor writes a script, no ill will, but if that person comes back and sits in a product that's got a plastic acquisition distribution layer, you can be prone to UTIs because of that. So, product features, and a product that's soft and comfortable and makes us feel like we're wearing typical underwear that we're used to is going to help someone using a product. So when you look at those product and features, those are very important. But to your point, sizing comes into play, the style of a product. There's a big myth out there that if I buy mom a large, it will hold more. The truth is, if mom's a medium, she really should be in a medium. And we look at hips and waist versus height and weight. That's very critical to looking at a right size product, hips and waist. If mom's in the right size and that product fits her well, when she voids, that product works better. Whereas if she's in the wrong size, she can void, leak simply because the product is too big. And that, to your point, can lead to a fall because now she's wet and uncomfortable. Styles are very important. Not everybody needs a brief. People with dementia actually tend to fare better with a pull up because they're used to wearing their own underwear. So that's critical to look at different styles of products. People that may have heavy or severe incontinence may fare better in a brief that's more absorbent than a pull up. So there's on the front end, if people take the time, and it does take a little bit of time, but what you have to trust is when you get it right and you have the product that has the right features, the person's in the right size, the right style, the right fit, long term, people breathe better and sleep better and say, "Ah, we got it right. Mom is now wearing the right size, the right style, the right fit. She's happy. The caregivers are typically happier, and it's a better outcome clinically and socially for all parties."
And you just led me to my next thing. And again, something else we've talked about that was a huge aha moment for me was the getting to be able to sleep overnight because the product holds enough liquid that I'm not having to get up every 2 hours to take mom to the bathroom. Can you talk more about that? Because that to me was a huge thing where caregivers are actually getting to sleep overnight.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I'm glad you brought that up because I want to share with people what we're hearing more and more in the caregiver space from caregivers. So, restorative sleep or uninterrupted sleep really means when people, and it's important for all ages, when they can sleep 7 to 9 hours undisturbed, that allows your body to go through the 4 to 5 different sleep cycles, which are very important for a host of reasons. Things like hormone regulation, cell regeneration, feeling rested. I think of it, Tracy. I do a lot of presentations, and I always like to show the picture of a 4 drawer filing cabinet because I think people prior to technology can relate to that, but it's still people can relate to that. But during the day, with so much information coming at us, by the end of the day, if you picture that 4 drawer filing cabinet, drawers are opened, files are on the floor hanging out of the drawers, maybe there's paper clips that are off, sticky notes, and so forth, because that information just puts our brain going in 50 different directions. If we get good, uninterrupted, undisturbed sleep, when we wake up the next morning, picture that file drawer being our brain as an analogy. Those sticky notes are back in the files are back in the drawer, and the drawer has a reset, just like our brain has a reset. So, things like that help with restorative sleep, but it's really people sleeping 7 to 9 hours. Now, when you have a product that will hold urine for a 7 to 9 hour period without the risk of having skin breakdown without the risk of having leaks, without the risk of a person feeling uncomfortable and being able to hold that volume. When they wake up in the morning, they reaped the benefits of restorative sleep, and either themselves or their caregiver can change them. Probably that caregiver has also reaped the benefits. And I always picture host of scenarios, but I picture a couple that maybe has been married 50, 60 years and a loved one is caring for their spouse. Those folks have to navigate so much in addition to incontinence, right? They may have to navigate, just like you did with your dad, finances, siblings, pets in the home, meals. It just goes on and on and on. And I think, oh my goodness, if you both can at least have a good night's sleep every morning, you have a chance of having a really good day based on a reset. So, restorative sleep, we know, is super important. And my other part of this is it's interesting. Caregivers that may be caring for folks in senior living communities
Mhm.
may be used to rounding every 2 hours because it's a habit that they've been doing. I was we didn't call it CNAs back in the day. It was called a nurse's aide back when I was 15, 16 years old. We rounded every 2 hours because that's what we did. That is a practice that dates back to the 1850s, Florence Nightingale days. It's not a federal mandate to round every 2 hours. It's not a state mandate to round every 2 hours. It's a 170-year-old habit. And not every person, as a blanket approach, needs to be awakened every 2 hours. So my teammates at Seni and I are saying, let's stop the madness. If you don't need to be awakened every 2 hours, that's really kind of a horrible thing. If someone came to us and said, hello, welcome to our community, and for the rest of your life now, I'm going to wake you every 2 hours. When you put it really in layman's terms, that would feel ugly to any
Mhm.
of us, right? So we're trying to educate. It doesn't come from a lack of compassion. It comes the other way, interestingly enough. Caregivers will say, well, wait a minute. I want to provide really good care. And if I don't wake people up every 2 hours, I don't feel comfortable. And so that's part of our educational quest out there, is to say, please feel comfortable. It's okay to let most. Now there could be other reasons that residents need to be awakened, but if it's strictly due to incontinence, better products like Seni and some others are on the market these days. So we can change that. It's a big mountain to climb, but the good news is we're climbing it, and aha moments and light bulbs are going off all across America right now. So that's thrilling. But I hope that answers your question.
It does. And then Dr. Jacqueline has a very lovely question that she just shared with me. How do you deal with a family member who is very conscious of their appearance and do not like the look of the product because it affronts their vanity?
Yeah, great,
My words,
great,
not hers.
great question. I love that question. And that is where style of products come into play. And I'm going to just share a quick story. When I started with this company, Seni, about 5.5 years ago, after I took the role, I kind of said to my husband, "Oh, these products better be really, really good," because my light bulb went off that people are not going to change for a similar product. It has got to be better. And so I thought to myself, you know what? I'm going to jump in with 2 feet here. I'm actually going to wear a product. I'm a walker. I'm going to drink 4 bottles of water, and I'm going to walk throughout the neighborhood that I always do, and I want to see if they work. And my concern was not about a skin breakdown because I am continent. So I knew I'm not going to have an issue there. That's not fair to look at that. My concern was I have my faculties and leaks. That's my concern. Let me take a walk. And are they comfortable? And so I went put my product on, a pull up, and I walked through the neighborhood and I drank my 4 bottles of water. And when it came time that my mind said, "Hey, Deanna, it's time to go," it felt awkward. It did not feel normal. And I thought, am I really going to do this? And I'm looking around in my neighborhood thinking, am I really going to do? But Tracy, what it taught me was not what I set out to do. It worked, the leak guards worked. But what it taught me, I never thought of. It does not make a difference if you are in your 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and beyond. If you have your faculties, what difference does age make? Voiding in a product does not feel normal because you have another birthday, right? So, what is to answer Dr. Jacqueline's question, what's important to feel comfortable when someone has their faculties is A, what's comfortable for them? Maybe it's a pad, and there are pads out there. Sunny has one that's an overnight pad. Maybe that feels more comfortable because many women are used to wearing a feminine hygiene pad, right? Especially older adults that tended to during their menstruation days wear pads versus tampons. So if that's more comfortable, that would be one way of addressing that is, well, let's try a pad. There are shape pads that have different absorbency levels that you can wear with your own underwear. Maybe that feels more comfortable. How people address incontinence with their loved ones, I would always recommend that you want to continue to maintain dignity for people, not make it a big deal, right? You're here to help. You come from a place of love and help. Those would be a couple of additional ways to approach it is break down the stigmas. That's what we're trying to do at Seni too is hey, we're here to help. Incontinence is a chronic condition, just like many others. So we don't um, address it like you would other chronic conditions. Make it from a point of love and help. Not a big deal, not something to be ashamed of, embarrassed about, and that style comes into play. So I hope that may be some reasons to help overcome that.
Okay, I'm gonna dig into the weeds a little deeper here,
Yeah.
because you spawned something here when you said style. Okay, what about the people that are so used to wearing wild underwear that this is too tame for them?
Yeah. So I guess what I would say for those folks is there are products out there like shaped pads. Seni, for example, has two shaped pads, one for day, one for night. And we say day and night, but it relates to absorbency. So the products are a big pad, and day can be worn at night, night can be worn at day. So when you think, we think more moderate and heavy absorbency. If
Mhm.
someone has their own underwear that's their fashion, whether it's tame or wild or anywhere in between, and have them try a pad in their own underwear. And we also offer free samples because that's critical too. Hey, you know what, mom? Just try it. Let's just try it and see how it feels. You can still wear your own underwear. Let's try a pad and go from there. So that may be one way to address that. Our products themselves are typically unisex for briefs and pull-ups. We do have a Seni lady line of 7 different urinary incontinence pads. And then we have 3 different Seni Man guards, but the briefs and the pull ups are all unisex. But I would recommend to answer your question, maybe the shape pads might be an alternative for somebody that's got some wild underwear that they still want to wear.
Yeah, I don't wanna crimp someone's style, you know?
Right, 100%, 100%. And that, and you lead to another question that people can fear sometimes. Does anybody know that I'm wearing this, right? And so our products are made of soft non-wovens, very comfortable materials. What does that mean? Well, that means that you're not going to have a crunch or a squeak every time that you're walking. We have different levels of absorbency. So people can wear a product that meets their needs, that they can remain dignified in the sense that no one has to know that you're wearing it.
Awesome.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
makes a difference, makes a huge difference for people.
So, as people are starting out caregiving, what should they know about caring for someone with incontinence issues? I mean, if it's their first time.
Yeah. So I would say the biggest thing that they should maybe do or understand is dig in a little bit proactively. And the reason that I say that, and I'm going to use an example of people with Alzheimer's disease, just as one example. There's a host of them. But when someone is incontinent, it doesn't mean that right away they may be heavy incontinent, heavily incontinent, or severely incontinent. People may start with moderate incontinence, or people may start with just, gee, all of a sudden, I've got to run to the bathroom a little bit sooner, urge incontinence, right? So you can have a different journey of incontinence. And it's important to know that there are different products out there every step of the way. It's important to know people, for example, with Alzheimer's. I have a neighbor, and her husband has Alzheimer's, and he's incontinent. And she's now becoming, after several years, very deep in the weeds, deep in the weeds, deep in the weeds. And I have conversations with her to remind her, because there can be frustration if your loved one is voiding in the kitchen, right? And just, I'm just voiding and I'm going, and you're the one that's cleaning that up, and here you have again that physical body. But it's really important to understand this is not intentional, this is not on purpose. Come from a place of care and love, but also know that you are human too, right? So
Mhm.
sometimes if you're not getting sleep, that's number one. Anybody who's incontinent, or even just in general, get good sleep. That's your reset. And know that you're human, and maybe you need to think about ways to have that frustration, right? Maybe you're going in another room and you're, this is just Deanna talking, screaming in a pillow. Help me. Let's get through that. Whatever works, right? I used to do that when my kids were little, right? If question after question after question after I scream it up, help. But do what you need to do to take care of yourself as well. But just come from a place of love and understand that. But that is where the styles come into place. Not everybody goes from a place of, I'm incontinent, so I need the highest performing product on the market. That's a myth. Go where you need to go. But there's plenty of good. That the National Association for Continence, right, is a great website out there. Our website has a lot of great information. You share in your book, right, Dementia Home Care, about incontinence. I guess my umbrella would be seek resources, seek resources, seek resources, develop a strong network, and don't be afraid to talk about it. Don't be afraid to talk with your care provider, your physician. Hey, either I'm having this issue or my spouse. Don't be embarrassed. Knowledge is power. And I think that's what I would say. Talk to your clinician, seek resources. Those would be my umbrella, and go from there.
Okay, I'm going to change topic just very, very slightly. Um,
Sure.
we talked about urine. We did not talk about feces. Let's talk about when someone has a movement and what happens if it's an overnight issue where they're sitting all night in that. I mean, is any of it absorbed into the pad?
Yeah. So any time that anybody has a bowel movement, regardless of product, fit, style, so forth, you do want to change that product immediately, as close as immediate. Yeah. So our products all have what they call wetness indicators, as do some other brands out there. As somebody voids, you can look at the wetness indicator and it will get darker, and so you can look at and say, gee, when a particular product is between 60 and 80% green, they voided, that's when you want to think about, okay, maybe it's time to change them. In looking at that, just because of our other senses, we are going to know if somebody's had a bowel movement. But you always do want to change someone that has had a movement for sure as soon as you realize that.
Okay, now the next question is, you talked about breathability. You talked a little bit about skin breakdown. Can you go a little bit deeper into that and how it prevents skin breakdown?
Yeah, sure. So if you think of it, I'm going to use an example. If you or I right now put a plastic glove on, start to um, feel moisture in our hand, i- it's similar. If a product doesn't breathe, we have skin vapors, and our skin vapors need to, it's like vapor permeable outer backing is what they call it. Our vapors need to go in and they need to go out, in and out. That reduces the risk of skin breakdown. And that is why 100% fully breathable product makes sense. If it's plastic, just like that glove on your hand, everything becomes contained, which can lead to sweating. So, private areas sweating. Now you've got moisture, you've got heat, you run the risk of a skin breakdown in the private areas.
Okay. Well, thank you for answering that because that's a lot of people don't think about that, and I know that uh, that's just one possible cause of skin breakdown. Because it's like if somebody's bedridden and you're not turning them enough, the skin can also break down. But now I want to go back to inappropriate toileting. Do you offer a product like, okay, I'm going to use like the example of a doggy potty training. So when you've got a puppy and you're training it and you're going to be gone for the day and you put out some sort of pad where they can go. Is there something like that that you guys provide for whatever the chosen area is when somebody is sundowning or they're having an issue overnight and they get up and they walk and they see their favorite spot, think that's the bathroom and go? Do you have a product for that?
So I would answer that by saying we have a whole host of different products based on what fits best, what style is appropriate for a person. But where my mind goes when you ask that question is thinking about where we place products. And I'll give you an example. If you have a person who maybe has early onset of dementia, but is starting to experience incontinence, instead of having that caregiver buy a package of products, and now I have a package of products and I am going to put it out by the bathroom toilet, maybe you think about, I'm not going to put it there. I'm actually going to open the product up. I'm going to take those pull ups as an example from the package. I am going to open my spouse's drawer or my loved one's drawer or my resident in a community drawer, and I'm going to put them there just as I would have put their regular underwear. So then it helps them maintain a structure, maintain familiarity, and open that drawer, and here's my product. So I think in terms of placement of products in a different way,
Mhm.
and other things that trigger related would be what we work with a very well-known geriatrician, Dr. Laird. This has always stuck with me. She brought up to caregivers, and I think it's a great, great, great example. If you have a loved one and you're living with them for 50 or 60 years, you probably have your side of the bed and they have their side of the bed. And if you have a bathroom and a master bedroom, and let's say my spouse, let's say I'm the one that's incontinent, but my spouse is closest to the bathroom, and maybe there are a couple of rugs that lead the way if we had hardwood or tile floors. You may want to think about as a strategy, whoa, wait a minute, now maybe it's time to change places. If I'm the one that's incontinent, maybe I'm going to be closest to the bathroom. Maybe I have my faculties, but my legs don't work as well, and maybe I'm going to remove those two or three rugs so I can have easier access, less risk of a fall, and I'm closer. So strategies are key to putting in place to help people navigate their path with incontinence.
Oh, I love that. And that's a great point. I also want to mention that we have about 3.5 minutes left. So, but I like the fact, do you have any other strategies that you recommend to people, especially those with dealing with dementias, uh, for preparing for this?
Yeah, I think my strategy goes back to number one, be verbal. If you're caring for someone, be verbal to help break down the stigmas across the board. There's nothing to be embarrassed about, whether it's you individually or your loved one. There's plenty of support out there. Knowledge is power. That would be a strategy. And then, another strategy could be um, have a backup plan about what makes you happy, right? And take a few minutes to care for yourself each day. And what I mean by that too is if you're caring for a loved one with incontinence and you got frustrated yesterday, try something different the next day, but think about it first. Okay, I got frustrated when that happened. What could I have done differently? Could I have done everything different? And what might I do differently tomorrow if it happens again? And maybe tomorrow you try something different and that doesn't work either, right? But
Mm.
okay, now I went to plan A, I went to plan B. I need a plan C. Keep trying, but understand in your heart, we're just human beings trying to help other human beings. But I think most caregivers that I have met, including yourself, Tracy, um, come from a place of love, caring, and understanding. And so when we take a minute to breathe and we get good sleep, we can wake up in the morning and have a reset across the world. Let's come from a place of love to help others. I think that might be my overall umbrella strategy. Come from a place of love to help.
I like that. I do like that. Yeah, it's hard, and having resources is so helpful. The fact that I love the sharing the information about switching sides of the bed because that would not occur to most people. You get into such a routine that to break that routine, of course, is going to cause angst for a little while. But if it saves you having to clean a mattress, clean a spill off the floor, uh, risk a fall because you didn't know somebody had an accident on the floor and you slipped, so, I mean, it's just I just love that idea. I just love
Yeah.
that.
And that I got to give
Mm.
credit to Dr. Layers. So, but it's always stuck with me ever since. So,
Oh,
yeah,
that's fantastic. Well,
yeah.
Deanna, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been really educational.
Well, I appreciate it and thank you so much. I am truly, sincerely, Tracy, so glad we crossed paths and I love everything that you're doing out there to educate folks with dementia. And kudos to you and thank you so much. My teammates and I always appreciate the opportunity to share incontinence education. So thank you.
Thank you. So we will be back on December 17th, and our guest will be Laura Wayman, internationally renowned as the Dementia Whisperer. We will be talking about her book, A Loving Approach to Dementia Care, and her mission for transforming dementia care. In the meantime, you can go over to our YouTube channel at USA Global TV and Radio and look for the Dementia Care playlist, where you will find the past episodes. Thank you to our wonderful Dr. Jacqueline for all of her hard work behind the scenes today. And thank you to our sponsors for making this possible. See you next time.